Emperor Vlad's story event contains a fair amount of spoilers for Season 2. This must be devastating for all you new players. It must be such a shocking surprise to hear that the good guys win and the bad guys lose. Emperor Vlad's Trustmaster reward is a materia that boosts your unit's dark resistance by 40% and their equipment magic by 100% so long as they're dual wielding. It's an excellent materia that can help you hit the stat cap faster, so you can make more room for other types of materia. His Super Trustmaster reward is a strong rod that automatically boosts its wielder magic by 300% upon entering the battle. Onto his active abilities. Emperor Vlad uses physical attacks that deal magic damage, meaning they scale off his magic but are affected by things like physical killers and elemental imbues. Lone Mirror of Equity is an empty absolute mirror of equity that can be adjusted as you please. You often have to use some other source though, as Vlad himself doesn't have any elemental imbues. Execrating Mirror of Equity deals dark magic damage that chains of Absolute Mirror of Equity, and lowers the enemy's dark resistance by 120%. Solitary Wand of Darkness deals dark damage that chains of Chaos Wave Awaken, and boosts its magic by 250%. Magic of Conceit boosts its magic by 300%, and grants him a whopping 50% physical and magical mitigation buff against human enemies. Universal Rejection Barrier can be used twice per battle. It raises his defense by 300%, grants him a 5000 HP barrier, and grants him a 50% physical, magical, and general mitigation buff. He also has some additional magic spells: Faraga, Blizzaga, Thundaga, Flood, and Meteor. All of them can be upgraded, except for Blizzaga and Meteor. Passives. With his Trustmaster reward or Super Trustmaster reward equipped, he gains a lot of equipment magic so long as he's holding a single weapon. He has a nice boost to his Limit Burst damage and deals increased damage to human enemies. His normal attack's been changed to deal dark damage and chains of Absolute Mirror of Equity. At the start of the battle, he'll instantly fill his Limit Burst gauge, depending on whether you've maxed his Limit Burst gauge level or not. Speaking of which, his Limit Burst. It lowers the enemy's spirit by 75% and then deals damage. Time to change forms. Emperor Vlad's Brave Shift has a 4-turn duration and a hefty 4-turn cooldown. Active abilities. True Power of Solitude deals dark damage. It's very underwhelming. Look at that modifier. But that's because you can raise it by incredible amounts through his next abilities. Each order strengthens loner power, but they also have their own buffs that set them apart. Human Predation Order grants a 150% magic buff against human enemies. Strength Preservation Order fills his Limit Burst gauge by half, if its level's been maxed. Magic Elevation Order boosts his magic by 250%. Wand Reduction Order lowers the enemy's rod resistance by 10%. Power of Solitude isn't related to these orders, but it does recover half his HP and all of his MP. He also trades all his magic spells for Graviga, which, looks very cool. Passives. He now caps that Human Killer, and receives further buffs if he's holding a single weapon. Overall though, not too much has changed. Onto his Limit Burst. It boosts his magic by 250%, raises his dark damage by 30%, and raises the powers of Loners Unite by incredible amounts. After 2 turns, it'll automatically boost his magic by 300%, his dark damage by 40%, and the damage modifier soars even higher. This all comes to an ultimate peak on the turn after that, granting the same magic buff, but supplementing it with a 50% dark damage buff and further raising I Forgot Its Name by even greater degrees. So, time to rank Brave abilities. Raising them just raises their damage, but nevertheless, I'd prioritize True Power of Solitude to give it a head start. Let's make a damage rotation. On turn 1, cast Magic of Conceit and dual cast Execrating Mirror of Equity. On turn 2, activate his Brave Shift and pop its Limit Burst. On turn 3, cast Human Predation Order, Strength Preservation Order, Wand Reduction Order, and cap a chain with True Power of Solitude. Then just repeat that until his Brave Shift ends. Once you get back, just buff and imperil until his Brave Shift is ready to go once again. So how good is Emperor Vlad? He's a very powerful dark magic finisher, especially against human enemies. He has his own variations as well, with different chaining families and a blink elemental slate, though ultimately this will rely on outside support. He doesn't offer anything to the team. His buffs are selfish and designed to let him survive so he can deal increased damage. Ironically, this puts him in direct competition to Louise, who, while boasting several of her own selfish buffs, also spread some weaker variations to the team. Neither of their damage outputs completely dominates the other, but overall you'd find a lot more use from Louise. Nevertheless, they do deal different elemental damage, so there will be different places and team setups to use each of them. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe. Comment below if you got Emperor Vlad. Though his damage output is high, it's not overwhelming. Personally, I think it's healthier for the game, keeping away from units with such ridiculous damage outputs. But unfortunately, this is a game that just cramps unhealthy amounts of power creep into its ever-expanding girth, and the majority of the player base has already adjusted to this. Oof.